Welcome to Phil Jordan Psychic Sleuth. We're going to talk in this session about hauntings. It's a very popular subject and has been through the centuries. The belief that people that have become disincarnate from their physical being still linger in a place, still linger in a house, still linger in a building, still linger around people. Of course, humanity's always believed that the human spirit stays alive after the thing called death. And where it goes depends on what you believe in your faith, whether it's a heavenly place or whether it goes into a pool of energy or whether it maintains its identity. But still today, there's a lot of talk about hauntings, ghosts, spirit-filled places. Many cities like Charleston and Savannah, Gettysburg, they have haunted tours where you can go to where places are haunted. One of the beliefs about haunting is that the spirit had left the body so quickly, perhaps through tragedy, accident, murder, whatever, that they don't really realize that they're disincarnate from their body and that they linger. And therefore, if they're in a house and somebody else moves their stuff out and their stuff in, they're going to let that person know that they're around. And the thing I have found with hauntings is, I think, it's like the word ghost. It's more of a negative thing than it is a positive thing, where if you use the word spirit over ghost, I think that seems to be more acceptable from a parapsychological standpoint. And we know that the spirit enters the body when the energy of the heartbeat gives life to the body. The spirit comes in and identifies that life and gives that body not only life, but spirit. And we know that because with the last heartbeat, the body dies and cannot live. And if you've ever been around deceased people, you know that whatever brought life to that body and unique character and identity to that body, it's gone. There is no longer a warmth of life in the body. So where did that spirit go? And I think that the spirit world surrounds us because of the energy called love, that indescribable warmth of spirit that is called love certainly connects all of us. It connects us in life and it connects us in death. And that's why I think so many people can sense the spirit of a loved one around them, or the spirit of anyone around them. And I think often we become portals for the spirit world to make themselves known. And I think when we first are aware of a spirit in a house or in a habitat or around us, the lack of understanding and the fear of not knowing what it is gives it a negative connotation. and we become frightened, we become fearful, we don't understand, and we get chills, we get goosebumps, and we feel a negative feeling to that, so negative that we feel the place is haunted. There's an evil spirit following me. There's something to be feared. My concept is that we fear the unknown because we can't explain it. We fear the unknown because it's not common to our earthly life. And I think it's the fear of the unknown that creates the negativity, rather than if we had a better understanding of what is happening in a haunting. A spirit-filled house has a warmth to it, a warmth of generations past that may have loved that house. It may have been a happy dwelling place for them and their family. And I think often we should not look at a spirit-filled house as a negative haunting, but we should look at it with the warmth of love, because it's people who have gone before us that are letting us know that they are around us. Spirits are energy. They give life energy to our body, and they maintain that energy and their identity after the change called death. Because they are energy, I believe they can interact with other energy factors in life to let us know they are around. Often, in the case of a spirit investigation, people will feel a cool breeze at the back of their neck, their ankles, their arms. And common sense tells us that because it's energy, it may create that breeze or that feeling. And it actually, when we ask why the neck, why the ankles, why the arms, because that's the exposed area away from clothing. And so it's that energy that may be able to interact with a television, a radio, perhaps even to the point where it could turn it on, turn it off. It's that spiritual energy that may move an object. It's that spiritual energy that may make it appear like there's someone walking upstairs, someone knocking at the door. And it simply may be somebody that we loved letting us know they're around us, or it may be somebody that's inhabited a place prior to our presence where they're letting us know that they're around us. Perhaps they died suddenly or tragically and never have accepted their spiritual transition, or never have accepted their physical death. They still feel like they're in their body. And perhaps that is some of the experiences that we have. We give a negative connotation to it because of our own human fears, when it may be just a recognition of love from the past or even to the present. There's a German word called poltergeist, which there was a movie called Poltergeist. It means noisy spirit. And the investigations have shown that it usually occurs around an adolescent male, and they sort of, I guess, think that because it's an adolescent male, that the mischievousness of the adolescent male may be an opportunity for an evil spirit to enter. But there is a belief also that the adolescent male is, their physical energy and their spiritual energy is changing so rapidly that some of that energy may spurn off and move an object, turn a light on, turn a light off. And it may not be a disincarnate spirit. It may be just energy from that youth spurning off and creating that. So it's not from an afterlife entity, it's from the actual physical entity of the adolescent boy who's going through all kinds of changes. But again, poltergeists and the movies have created it to be not only a negative thing, but an evil thing. From a religious standpoint, if you have fear created and you feel it's an evil force, the first prayer of exorcism is the Lord's Prayer, where it asks good to triumph over evil. Lead us not into temptation, but deliver us from evil. And so if you say that to yourself, say that out loud, the spirit world is aware that you're fearful, and it will come to your aid. It will block out any evil. Evil exists in our world. There is no doubt about it. Evil exists among humanity. We've seen that in history, and we've seen that in the present day. Evil does exist. But if we express our own goodness, we aren't around evil spirits that are still in the body. So no evil spirit would be attracted to us in the spirit world. Our goodness would help protect us from an evil spirit. So I think that a lot of people worry about evil when they should just try to understand the fear associated and the negativity associated with the human concept of life after death. Death is a fearful thing because we do not understand it. Hauntings are a fearful thing because we do not understand it. In contemporary times, there's all kinds of ghost hunters, investigators that go to a place that is supposedly haunted. And they set up apparatus to try to hear the voice of a spirit. They'll have psychics or mediums come in and tell what they think. And I think that what we just have to realize is that the spirit world is a dimension around us. It's a spiritual dimension and not a physical dimension. And I think that all the concerns about possession, things of that nature, are probably not necessarily something that we have to concern ourselves with, because our goodness will protect us from that. But I think there's some very intriguing ghost stories that certainly will make you stop and think, will make you wonder, but also may validate your faith that you as a person, your spirit that gives your body identity and character, will live on. And so it's a very intriguing thing. And I think we have to be careful not to become so assuming that we label it as an evil attachment rather than a love attachment. A lot of times the spirit will come back and dwell in a place that they knew and loved, a place that they may have lived not only through their childhood but throughout their lifetime. May have lived to about 90 some years old, and they inherited the house from their mother, who inherited it from a grandmother, and it may be the spirits of those loved ones that are still in the house because they love the house so much. I live in a house that was built in 1860. It's a house that was built by a general in the Civil War, a huge house, 16 rooms, built by a general in the Civil War because he wanted his family to be in a safe place, and he knew the war would not come this far north. And I was told by the previous owner that there's a spirit that steals expensive perfumes from people that were staying there when it was a bed and breakfast. And they never could find those perfumes. It happened on many occasions. Perhaps that was a woman who enjoyed expensive perfumes, but yet maybe they just hid them to let us know they're there, because the woman would not have her physical body to enjoy the perfumes. One day I was sitting in my parlor doing a consultation for a client, and I saw a little girl skip up the stairs, the open staircase in the foyer. She had ringlets, sort of reddish brown ringlets, French girls. She had a dress on that was a white, sort of a lace type dress, like almost like a Battenberg lace. She had leggings and a pink sash around her waist. And I saw her skip up the stairs. And I didn't think anything of it because I've seen a lot of spirits in my life. And the house was bought in 1906 by a neurosurgeon from New York City who was a friend to one of his patients. As a neurosurgeon, he became a friend to one of his patients, and the patient would come and stay at his house. He actually put in an elevator for the patient, and the patient happened to be Franklin Delano Roosevelt. And I wasn't quite sure I believed that when I was told that, but then our historical society showed a picture of Franklin Delano Roosevelt sitting on the side sun porch. There was a little girl leaning up against the arm of the chair looking up at him, and it was the exact little girl that I saw run up the stairs. I don't know who she was. I don't know how she was connected to Franklin Roosevelt or to Dr. Amos Canfield, but I saw it with my own eyes, and then I saw it in the pictures, so I know that spirit is valid. I would never consider that little girl to have haunted my house, but I think she brought a spirit-filled energy with her that brings sort of a youthful involvement to the house. It brings a warmth to the house. And let us remember also that all the animals in the kingdom have spirits. And so I've seen dogs, I've seen rabbits, I've seen horses for people. And they've been in their habitat, and I tell people, and people could think, well, that's a haunting. No, it's not a haunting. It's just a spirit of something that has loved Earth, loved the place, loved the habitat, loved the people, and they dwell around that. So I think that Hollywood and authors have used the spirit world to put fear in people because it sells. Fear sells, I think, more than joy does on occasions. And I think that's just basically the way that goes. And going back a little bit to what I was saying, when someone tragically dies, they often don't realize they've been cast out of their body. I think that was very, very well portrayed in the movie Ghost, where the man was murdered and he looked down and he realized he was standing there, but his body was laying on the street dying, and died. And he was out of his body, and he recognized it as his own body. And therefore he was trying to get back to the woman he loved, to tell her that he loved her and that he was still with her. In the whole movie, if you want to see it again, the whole movie is very accurately done in regards to the spirit world, to mediumship, to things like that, because it does, in a very convincing way, tell us that the spirit does live after the change called death. I don't think that the spirit is in limbo or anything like that. I think they're in the spirit world and just connect to us through love. And so I think that haunting is a sort of a negative word for a spirit-filled occasion, a spirit-filled dwelling. And I find that when I go into old homes and sense a spirit there, I don't always tell people because they probably want to sleep at night and they would take it in the wrong way. But I have seen so many different experiences with the spirit world that I know that after the change called death and I leave this life, that I'll not only be with people I knew and loved that I haven't seen for a long, long time, I will also be able to be around the people that I left behind. Because that's what the gift of love is all about. An eternal connection, a godly connection to all of us. Several years ago, I was, many years ago, I was traveling in my work, and a friend of mine, his mother-in-law had died just while I was away. And I went, when I got home, I went from the airport to the funeral home, which was a very small hometown funeral home. Actually, it was like in a person's living room. There was a TV there and everything, and old-fashioned funeral home. And I sat at the funeral, and I saw the two daughters at the casket, and I saw my friend's mother-in-law come up and put her arms around each of their shoulders. And she was wearing a light blue nightgown with a light blue bathrobe, and it had two big pink flowers on each side of the chest. And I couldn't figure out why she was letting herself be known in that, but it was very restful looking. So after the funeral, I said to him, I don't usually tell people this, but I saw your mother-in-law come up to her daughters as they were looking at her in the casket, but she's wearing a light blue nightgown with a matching robe. And he says she had gotten up in the night, put her robe on, and was sitting on the edge of the bed, and she just fell over backwards, dead. She had died wearing that. And I think that was her way of letting me know that she was in the spirit world, her love was with her daughters, and it would be proof to me that it was her, because my friend told me, he said that's exactly what she was wearing when she died. And perhaps she hadn't realized that she made that transition and still felt like she was physically in her body wearing that robe, and couldn't figure out why her daughters were standing there looking at her and crying as she laid in the casket. She certainly wasn't wearing that in the casket. So to me, that's not a negative thing or not an evil thing. it's a comfortable thing. It's a thing of love. And we do get carried away with negativity on occasions, like the movies of and some of the fundamentalists in religion and things. They talk about the demons. I believe demons are not necessarily entities. I believe demons are a psychological manifestation within ourselves. That we all have demons that we have to overcome in our lives. That it's not an entity, it's a psychological manifestation. And if there are demons, which is biblically mentioned in the Bible, if there are demons, I think perhaps it's the psychological manifestation of evil, where we even may have contemplated something evil and it demonizes us. And sometimes it becomes such profound psychological manifestation that it can actually create a mental illness. And so I think we have to just be more investigative, more understanding, and more what it's all about. So that's my thoughts on hauntings. What are your thoughts?
Well, I was going to ask you about that movie Ghost and see what you thought about it and how it was presented. And I agree with you. It sounds really good. And I was wondering about the TV show Ghost. Have you seen that?
Yes. I haven't seen too many episodes, but it gives us an understanding of the spirit world in sort of a comedic way, sort of a light-hearted way. And all of the ghosts are identified by how they died, like the guy with the arrow through the neck, how they died, or when they died. By their dress, we can tell that they were from the Revolutionary War period. And often when I'm contemplating, after I've seen a spirit for somebody, I will try to describe what they're wearing, or I can relate to the time period they lived through what they are wearing, or perhaps what they say, or if I hear them speaking another language or whatever. And so I think that show is fun, number one, and it gives a much lighter side to the spirit world and to the hauntings. And I think it probably exaggerates things considerably, because I'm not sure they do all the things that the show does, but it certainly gives us something to think about. You know, I think our Christian faith, and other faiths actually, they give us hope. And we hope that we do survive after the change called death. For me, it's given me knowledge that we do survive after the change called death, because I see constantly spirits around me, and it's not my imagination. I don't think it's a psychological fault. I don't think it's short circuit my brain or anything like that, because I've seen too many of them that are so exact in what I tell people. You know, like even to the point of times of death, dates of death, how they died, physical characteristics in their life that identify them after death. They don't take their body with them, but their spirit will convey perhaps a characteristic about them or their death or something that lets us know who they are, so that we can identify them and know that they are with us. I mentioned in a previous podcast that when I was 11 years old, I had very badly infected big toenails on both feet. We went to this old country doctor, and he didn't numb them or anything. He took electrician pliers and pulled them off, and I passed out. And when I passed out, I was taken to this barn, and this woman came in a long brown skirt with a nice beige colored blouse with a ruffle on it. And she said to me, she said, "Philip, you can't come here yet. You have to turn around and go back." And I thought, just as I was turning around, I came to because the doctor had put smelling salts under my nose. Then he yanked off the other toenail and I passed out again. But I didn't know the woman. She had beautiful hair and an upsweep, sort of. And about 6 months later, my aunt and I were going through some old pictures, and there's that picture of that woman. And I said to my aunt, I says, "Who is that woman?" And she says, "Oh, that's my mother when she was young," which would be my grandmother, who I never knew because she died like 4 years before I was born. And so now I would recognize her anywhere, and I could feel her love. I could feel her grandmotherly love. And I think probably because I had a heart murmur when I was young, I was probably very close to dying when I had my toenails ripped off. And it sounds funny, but I think that that's how I met my grandmother and how my grandmother let me know that she was around me. And the barn that she was standing in the doorway was the barn that was across the road from the house that my mother grew up in the family farm. And so, and still today, some 65 years later, I can visualize that dream as though it happened 10 minutes ago. And so I know that was my grandmother's spirit. It wasn't evil. It was pleasant. It was wonderful. And so it helps me to not fear death, but I think so often we fear death, and that ruins our life. We shouldn't fear death. We should enjoy life and not even think about death until the day comes. And then we'll know when that's supposed to happen. And then we can perhaps appear to people and let people know that they're around us and we're around them.
When you see the same spirit like multiple times, different days or years apart or whatever, are they always wearing the same thing?
Not necessarily. They may be identifying themselves, like if it was a policeman, they might come to you in a uniform. Or once you realize who it is, they may come to you in some other way to manifest through their life who they are in death. So it doesn't always have to be the same outfit, the outfit is, that appearance is simply to connect our earthly identity with their spiritual entity, if that makes sense to you.
Yeah. Very interesting.
Well, I think that for me, my investigation into the spirit world has certainly validated my understanding of my faith and my religion. Every person should have their own faith and understand religion in their own personal way. For me, when Christ appeared after his death so many different times, like to the women on the road to Damascus, in the upper room to the disciples, again to appear to convince Thomas the doubter that he was there, and they even were able to touch his wounds and his physical being. Perhaps it was such a strong manifestation of a spirit, of a very spiritual being, that it was perceived as him physically there, when he was so spiritually strong that it was like he was physically there.
They do the haunted house tours all over the place, right?
All over, yeah. Especially in New England. Gettysburg, because there was so many people that suddenly died at Gettysburg. I mean, hundreds and, well, actually thousands of people that died in the 1860s. And so there's a lot of houses there where people were wounded and taken to the houses and died there and things like that. You know, I think that it's just a validation that the spirit that gives us life continues after the change called death. And there's nothing scary about it. To me, it's just common sense. I can't imagine not believing in the spirit world. I can't imagine not believing in my own spirit. And very few people really can understand when I say you have to know both your beings. You have to know your physical being, and you have to be able to separate your spiritual being from that. And I know the spirit that dwells in my body, and I know my physical body, and I know when things go wrong with that, and therefore I think there's a very strong connection between our spiritual maladies and our physical impairments. I think that sometimes we may have such an emotional illness that it may affect our hearts. We may have heart issues, things of that nature. And so there's such a strong correlation between the spiritual being and the physical being that it connects to the spirit world wanting to be still around their physical habitat that they lived in, that they were connected to. So that's my thoughts on hauntings.
Sounds good. Thank you. Appreciate it.
Coming up, we're going to have a podcast on healing, and I'm going to have a wonderful Reiki master and a massage therapist on 2 different occasions that will talk about their involvement with healing. I'm still available at my office in Candor. PhilJordan.com will give you all that information. My new book is about 3/4 done, and my more recent book, A Winter's Journey, is available, and that really gives thoughts about the spirit world as well. And so you can get consultations with me over the phone, through the mail, in person. Check out PhilJordan.com.
And feel free to send any questions and comments.
Yes, I did want to mention that.
Yeah.
I got a video of our last podcast was on UFOs, and I got a video it was a nighttime video of what was believed to be a UFO, and it was sent by a woman named Carla. And I have reason to believe that it was probably a very valid UFO sighting, and very intriguing, very exciting. And it happened not far from where the sighting of the UFO in North Valley was. So I think that was wonderful. And I am going to get where I not only answer questions that are sent in, but I will occasionally do one of my police cases that I'm asked to do. I won't identify by names, but I will let people know that their case has been worked on and they can hear it. So that'll be fun.
Very good. And again, the email address is PhilJordanPsychic@gmail.com.
Phil Jordan Psychic at gmail.com. Send in some questions so that we have other things we can talk about. And I do hope you've enjoyed Phil Jordan Psychic Sleuth signing off. Thank you.